All right. I will call this January 8th, 2025 Town Council meeting to order. Welcome everyone in attendance and those who are tuned in online. Recognize that there is a quorum present with everyone in attendance. I'd like to welcome everybody to 2025. We made it. We're here. We got a year of good excitement ahead of us, and I look forward to doing the people's work with the esteemed group I have up here on the dais. Ms. McKay, can we have a roll call, please?
Mrs. Amos.
Here.
Mr. Reed.
Here.
Mr. Dwyer.
Here.
Mr. Parrott.
Here.
Mr. Yolen.
Here.
Mr. Hunter.
Here.
Mr. Hardy.
Here.
All right, we're going to do the invocation. You're welcome to join if so inclined, or not to if so inclined. And then Vice Mayor Reed will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. All right. First item is the adoption of the agenda. Do I hear a motion to adopt the agenda as presented?
Make a motion we adopt the agenda as presented. Second.
Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it. You know you have a teenage daughter when you're getting phone calls asking if you're picking her up tonight from basketball practice. Next up is declaration of personal interest. Do we have anyone who'd like to make a declaration of personal interest concerning anything on the agenda this evening? Not hearing any, we will move past that. The next item was a presentation from Hurt and Profit, but my understanding is that has been postponed due to weather, and they'll be coming next month. Is that the case, Mr. Davis?
Yeah, he would need to travel from Blacksburg, and so he opted to ask if he could do it next month. They got a little bit more than we did.
All right, we'll roll into the public hearing. So first public hearing, we have resolution number 2025-0101 for a conditional use permit to allow for 181 units, 35,310 square foot mini warehouse, a self-storage building on Perry Drive. The property is zoned B3 highway commercial. We have a few email comments that we received. I believe one of the individuals who emailed in a comment is here tonight to speak. I will say that there's a second one. I don't believe that individual is here. There were some considerations around traffic. It's about a 3-page email, so I'm not going to read it in its entirety, but it will go into the record. And there was some concern about light pollution and traffic and things of that nature. It can be found in the minutes when we publish them. Is there anyone signed up to speak in person, Ms. McKay?
Ruth Bud.
Hi, everybody. I live at 101 Crestview Drive, which is at the corner of Crestview and Perry Drive, and you do have a letter from me in which I expressed my opinions on the storage facility. I think it is very important to state I am not opposed to a storage facility. One of the planning commissioners stated at the meeting that they had that something far worse than a storage facility could go in this place, and that he didn't think really Perry Drive should come into it when this was being adopted or not adopted. I certainly agree that something more serious and worse could go in the place instead of a storage facility. I do not agree that it doesn't have anything to do with Perry Drive, because it has everything to do with Perry Drive, and I live adjacent to Perry Drive, so it affects me and it affects the people living in Crestview. Now, a couple of you have been on town council for a pretty long time, but for about 24 years, I've lived in Crestview, and for all except for 1 month of that, there have been issues with Perry Drive that I have known about. And we came to town council a million times. A large group of us used to come to every town council meeting, and we expressed our concerns about the traffic, about the noise, about the speeding, about the trucks. And town council members were very cordial to us, and they listened, and they did nothing. And the can has been kicked down the road for over 2 decades. And now we have a new hotel, and we have a furniture store, and we have another restaurant, and we have a proposal for storage facilities. And Crestview and Perry Drive, the end where I live, are still the same. And so I would like to ask you, council members, to please consider revisiting the Perry Drive situation. The traffic is horrendous. Our representative had larger no truck signs placed on Perry Drive, and he should have just had an invitation saying welcome truckers, because they're coming more than ever, and they're big trucks. And they come during the day, and they come sometimes at night. I would say not 1 in 500 people drive the speed limit on Perry Drive unless there's a cop in full view of them. The issues with noise, with loitering, with lights, I mean, Days Inn is a prison complex as far as the lights that shine into the neighborhood. And I understand why they put lights, but the light pollution is tremendous. So we're concerned about things like that have to do with our end of Perry Drive, and we would like for you to look at some solutions. What's the problem with Marywood Farm Road? What's the problem with putting a road through Marywood out to the main road? Yeah, I know it's not easy, but the house beside Shorter's has been vacant for at least 24 years. And something like that could perhaps be done to have a more direct way out to the highway.
Ms. Budd, your time is up.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Budd. Do we have anyone signed up? Anyone else signed up for public hearing resolution number 2025-0101?
Thorn Harvin.
Good evening, council members. I'm Thorn Harvin with the Rosemeyer Corporation. One of our companies is AA Self Storage, so I'm here to represent the company as far as asking for the conditional use permit for the self-storage. We currently own and operate a self-storage that is in the old Walmart, where we have a Tractor Supply and the self-storage on the right. It's been 100% leased for 4 to 5 years, and we've been trying to find a piece of property that would fit, that's close to that site, so that we have 2 really good managers there, that one of them could run one facility and run the other one. This site is great in the sense that it's got good access. We like the location. It's near the main road. As you probably read in some of the minutes, we have a low traffic volume daily. All of our facilities, we have almost 20 facilities, and the average is roughly between 15 and 20 cars a day. In Raleigh, really the most that we have is around 21. That's the highest traffic that we have out of all the facilities. We don't have any, in Raleigh we have 2 24-hour customers. In Madison Heights and Lynchburg we have no 24-hour customers, so we feel comfortable that we won't need 24-hour access at this facility, which we mentioned. So our hours would be really between, I think it was 10:30 and 6 in the morning. One of the other concerns was the lighting. Our lighting is really just set up for the buildings themselves. They're not parking lot trees like you see at our other facility, which was designed as a shopping center, Walmart. All of our lighting are wall packs that you see on the side of the building. And the buildings, if you saw the design, the lights sort of shine towards each other. They don't shine out into the neighborhood or behind the building. We fence the entire site, so it's secure. We don't have break-ins because it's just not stuff there that people want to waste their time in stealing, I think. It's really a low traffic and a safe facility. We keep a clean facility. Our facilities are always staffed. They're not, a lot of the new facilities, they're setting up as automated facilities. So we always have staff there when it's office hours. And then sometimes people have codes that go up to 10:30 at night or 10 o'clock at night, whatever it may be. And so I'll be here to help answer any questions if you all have any now or at any point.
Mr. Harvin, your time is up.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else signed up, Ms. McKay?
No, sir.
All right, we will close the public hearing on resolution number 2025-0101 and open public hearing on ordinance number 234 regarding a zoning ordinance on fences. Do we have anyone signed up for public hearing ordinance number 234?
Ruth Bud.
So in the past couple of years, I've had two burly big men, about twice my size, walk up into my yard and panhandle me. One came up the bank into my front yard while I was sitting on the front step and demanded money because he wanted a shower and a room at Days Inn. Another one came up into my backyard while I was putting food out for the birds and told me he needed some money so he could go eat. And then there was a woman who walked by the house 2 or 3 times for maybe a week or so, and she came up into the yard and said she needed some money to go up to Walmart and get some things. It wasn't a very good feeling. And then one night a couple of years ago, we heard a series of pop, pop, pops, and come to find out there was somebody in our front yard shooting down at Days Inn. And then we heard sirens, and the cops were all over the place. And then it kind of got pushed under the rug, and we didn't hear much more about it. And then there are the occasional people who walk up into the alleyway that adjoins my house and in full view of my kitchen window, pull down their pants and relieve themselves. And then there are the people who come by and throw out cigarette butts during periods of drought, making me worry that my house might be on fire when I wake up in the morning. So now we have a fence ordinance. And I have to tell you that I read the fence ordinance twice in its entirety. And I only have 2 masters and a doctorate degree, but I couldn't understand some of the wording, and I had to call our representative and ask him to explain it to me. So from what I understand, if I want to put a fence facing Crestview Drive, oh, and I forgot the people breaking into all the cars in Crestview this past year at 4 in the morning. If I want to put a fence facing Crestview, it can be 4 feet, as I understand it. But if I want to put the fence on Perry Drive, it still can be only 4 feet until it gets partly way up Perry Drive past my house, and then it can go up to 8 feet. So 4 feet at that bank where the man came up and panhandled me, and then down further where the woman wanted me to give her money could be up to 8 feet, as I understand it. Now, that's ridiculous. Now, if I want something different, I can appeal. I can ask for a conditional use permit and pull $500 out of my pocket to have to go through that whole procedure if I want to make my house or myself more secure. This kind of sounds like Venezuela. Now, I understand that maybe you want to control that people aren't putting up 70 feet fence with bright yellow and graffiti. I understand that. But to charge $500 for a conditional use permit for someone who needs something that's more than the height that a dog can jump over, just I just do not understand it. And I would like to ask you to please reconsider this because I don't see where it's helping anybody. I can understand you don't want roads blocked. I understand all of that.
Ms. Budd, your time's up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else signed up for ordinance number 234, Ms. McKay?
No, sir.
We did have the same individual who wrote in on the storage unit on Perry Drive. Also had a closing paragraph on the fence ordinance. That is in the email that was distributed amongst council. We'll also go into the minutes of this meeting. There was just basically a recommendation that there was no administrative fee attached to a letter of permission or something similar. But that is there for yours and the public's perusal at your leisure. With that, I'll close the public hearing for ordinance number 234, and we go to public comment period. Do we have anyone signed up for public comment period, Ms. McKay?
No, sir.
All right, we will close the public comment period. Next item is the consent agenda. You had the draft minutes of the December 4th work session and the December 11th regular council meeting before you. If there is no amendments, do I hear a motion to adopt the consent agenda as presented?
I make a motion to adopt the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it. Next up is the finance report. Finance Director, Ms. Julie Moore, on the November 2024 finance report.
Good evening. Again, this month you only have the work session reports due to the timing of the holidays and when statements got released. It was impossible to get the actual finance report done. So next month will be like last month, and you'll get December and January and February. Like last month, you got November and October and November. So with what you have, when we look at the revenue to budget, as we've discussed in prior months, certain revenue streams are inherently seasonal, which impacts our year-to-date collection percentages. For instance, major sources like real estate taxes and business licenses are typically collected later in the fiscal year, resulting in the general fund appearing to lag in revenue at this stage. Additionally, the airport fund revenue is primarily grant-driven, and the grant disbursements are tied to specific project timelines. This means revenue may be received irregularly depending on the progress and timing of grant-supported initiatives. These timing differences are expected and do not reflect a shortfall in revenue, but rather the nature of our collection cycle and funding sources. As we move into the later months of the fiscal year, these percentages should align more closely with projections. When we look at revenue compared to prior year, revenue in the water and sewer fund are slightly below prior year. This is primarily due to the November billing not occurring until December this year, which will temporarily impact the year-to-date figures. In addition, the airport fund reflects lower revenue compared to last year, which we've previously discussed, and this is due to the absence of large-scale projects currently underway in the current year. This trend was expected given the timing and nature of this year's operations. When we look at the expense to budget, overall total expenses are currently above the 5-month mark of our budget. This variance is due to several payments that were made earlier in the fiscal year than the budget assumes. For example, the finance department, we paid the audit fee in full. We also had a workers' compensation audit and the Edmonds maintenance contract that's all been paid. The library department, we made the annual appropriation for the rent. The non-departmental, we've made the bond payment this year already, and then the transportation fund, we've made the payment for the 2 buses. These expenses were anticipated and will balance out over the course of the fiscal year as the budget assumes that these expenses are evenly distributed month to month. When we look at expenses to prior year, we are up compared to last year in some departments, as I've talked about in the past, like the legislative department. We've had more Met Comp payments paid out this year compared to last year. In the town manager's department, we've had more engineering costs because we've had more ongoing projects this year than in prior year. In public safety, we've paid for our 5 police vehicles, a firefighter vehicle, and then we make the first installment on the new firefighter radios. Public Works, we purchased a pickup truck and a mini excavator. The water fund, we've made an ABM payment, and we've also made payments on the new oxidation tank, which falls under the ARPA money. And then the sewer fund, we've paid for a service truck, and we've had higher sludge removal expenses. And the transportation fund was the 2 buses. These increases reflect planned expenditures for necessary projects and equipments that were aligned with the town priorities in the 2025 budget year. Any questions?
Any questions for Ms. Moore at this time? How'd the utility bill adjustments go?
Everybody got an $8 credit. And then hopefully this upcoming month, we should be back on track where we should be. And we're getting training next week. So we're hoping that after that, we can push out that app that everybody can have, because trust me, I need that app too, to monitor my water. Once we get a handle on that, we'll have some information that we'll try to put on the website and on social media so that everybody can get the app and start monitoring their water usage themselves. So,
Okay, thank you.
thanks.
All right, we have received the finance report. Do I hear a motion to accept the finance report as presented?
Yeah, I move that we accept the finance report as presented.
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Ayes have it. Now we roll into new business. First item up for new business is the request of appointment of vice mayor, which is a 2-year term. Are there any nominations for the appointment of vice mayor?
I nominate A.D. Chucky Reed for vice mayor appointment.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion at this time? Not hearing any. Ms. McKay, we have a roll call, please.
Mrs. Amos?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer?
Yes.
Mr. Parrott?
Yes.
Mr. Yolen?
Yes.
Mr. Hunter?
Yes.
Mr. Hardy?
Yes.
The motion passes.
Thank you. Congratulations, Vice Mayor Reed.
Thank you, and I thank everyone for their support and hope we can continue to work together.
Next item up is request adoption of rules of procedure at the first meeting in January of each year following council elections. We shall adopt the rules of procedure, which we've got in our packets. Any discussion on rules of procedure, or do I hear a motion to accept or adopt rules of procedure as presented?
Make a motion that we adopt the rules of procedure as presented.
Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? Not hearing any. Ms. McKay, can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer?
Yes.
Mr. Parrott?
Yes.
Mr. Yolen?
Yes.
Mr. Hunter?
Yes.
Mr. Hardy?
Yes.
Mrs. Amos?
Yes.
The motion passes.
Thank you. Next up is request adoption of the Code of Ethics and Conduct and Ethics Pledge. In 2016, this was established and has become an annual review and adopt. Any discussion on Code of Ethics and Conduct and Ethics Pledge? Not hearing any. Do I hear a motion to adopt the Code of Ethics and Conduct and Ethics Pledge as presented?
Make a motion that we adopt the Code of Ethics and the Conduct and Ethics Pledge. Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? Not hearing any. Ms. McKay, can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Dwyer?
Yes.
Mr. Parrott?
Yes.
Mr. Yolen?
Yes.
Mr. Hunter?
Yes.
Mr. Hardy?
Yes.
Mrs. Amos?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
The motion passes.
Thank you. And now for resolution number 2025-0101 for a conditional use permit to allow a total of 768 storage units in 6 buildings, an office building on the west edge of Perry Drive. I believe Ms. Austin is here. If we have any questions, do you have anything to present to open up the discussion at this time?
I can, or you can just begin the discussion if you'd like.
Perry Drive, adjacent or next to Schul's home, in the same area as Walmart and the True by Hilton, and some of the other businesses that I mentioned, including Fish and Pig and restaurants over in that area. And this is for storage unit, conditional use permit, because they are conditional use permit no matter what zone. Is that accurate, Mr. Davis?
Correct. Many warehouse.
Many
storage.
warehouse storage.
Mayor, if I could just offer a few comments leading into this topic. There's been conversation and comments about different things. One of them being Perry Drive. Perry Drive, that area of Perry Drive is zone commercial. Yes, there's many commercial, high-density commercial that can go on that particular land. And one of the ones that is minor compared to all the others that could be, if you look at the zoning ordinance in B3, is a storage business. Gentleman from Rosemeyer stated that other areas of his that they have X amount of vehicles per day. I think he said 15. I looked up the actual industry standard, and it states that less than 7 car trips per day per 100 units, according to the industry standard, is traditionally the amount. I think this is a total of like 209 units total, something like that.
768.
Okay. So that give you an idea of how many trips, and it also states in that many times it's more trips during the weekend than it is during weekdays. The other thing that's been shared in comments is about coming off of Marywood Farm. There's no access off of Marywood Farm. If you look at the second topic that'll come after this, which is the boundary adjustments of changing parcels, so within the subdivision ordinance, you'll notice and see from that the parcels are being broken up, and the 5-acre parcel that fronts Marywood Farms is not part of this development. That 5 acres can be a future development that would have to come off of Marywood Farms. But this particular development does not have access from Marywood Farms, the way that the land will be subdivided. So it comes access from Perry Drive, if you look at the drawings. I haven't been here nearly as long as most of you on council or certain residents in the community. I will say, though, from experience, is that whenever Walmart comes to a town, especially a super Walmart, what follows it will change that area where it goes drastically. And that decision was made years ago. So at this point in time, what comes to that area is going to be what other things are drawn from the amount of traffic that Walmart draws, because they want some of that business as well. And that goes back to what I said before. Of all the types of businesses that could come, this is one of the ones that is minor as far as foot traffic and vehicular traffic. To take you back a little bit, Rosemeyer has been looking in Farmville. If you remember, I can't remember how many years ago it was now, 2, 3 maybe, they asked to come for a conditional use permit at the site that they're at currently by Tractor Supply. It couldn't work out with adjoining property owners to increase there. So they're looking to do more business here in Farmville. So I would say that a company does not traditionally want to do more business if they don't see that there's a need for that business in that community. But we're open for questions about what's been submitted for you all.
I have a question. How many units are at the Tractor Supply location?
I'm going to ask Mr. Harvin if he can come answer that.
Roughly 300. And that was a, fit up. We basically took the extra space. We leased Tractor Supply.
Sir, could you come up to the mic? Thank you. Just so the folks at home could hear you as well.
We leased to the Tractor Supply, and then we took the remainder and then leased that, upfitted it for self-storage. So it's a lot smaller than we typically do, but it's a good space for it.
And you said those 100 are 100%.
They're 100%. Yes,
occupied
sir.
at the moment.
They've been that way for at least 4 years.
What kind of fence would you be putting around the property?
Chain link with barbed wire top. Typically, the front is a black aluminum with a point and spear, just a straight pole basically with a spear top. And that's really just for decoration, just to dress up the front. The rest of it is just standard chain link with barbed wire.
Do you anticipate any outdoor storage?
In the back of the site, because the site is so big, the site will have to be basically benched. The front, as you see it, will be pretty much the same, and the back drops way off. And the retention pond would go back in that big gully that's in sort of the back right-hand corner. The site is benched before that, and there are buildings kind of on the back left and a gravel lot kind of in the center. And so that's really hidden next to the pond in the center. So you really wouldn't see the parking, but it is a parking area down there.
So you do anticipate?
We do anticipate, yes, sir.
Okay.
And I
Thank
think
you.
it's on that drawing. Yeah.
You appeared, or at one point, didn't you want to do additional units at the AA site that's right there right now? What happened to that proposal? I think we actually passed that, didn't we?
At
did that
the
get-
current self-storage.
That's what I was just commenting on, is that they did have a conditional use permit a few years ago, and the adjoining landowner, they could not work out where there was a deed restriction, so it was not enough space. So they
Exactly.
had to retract that conditional use permit.
Sorry, I missed that. Thank you.
And I realize that traffic is not huge in a situation like this, but in a space that is already a lot of traffic, any traffic creates an issue, and this is definitely, Miss Budd had a valid point of looking at other options, but I guess the question, I'll leave the traffic piece out at this point because I think I've got it covered. On the fence that's going around it, let's talk about that really quick. Is this conditional use permit going to cover the height of his fence that's actually that he's going to put in, or is it going to come into play that he's going to have to come get another conditional use permit for the fence that is or is the condition, or is the ordinance we're looking at just for residential? I think it's just
Commercial fencing is different than the
Yeah.
residential.
I thought it was.
We
Okay.
have fence regulations for commercial properties already in ordinance.
I thought so. I just had to think. One more question. Can the lights be reduced after a certain time in the evening? Like, I don't know, let's just call it 9 o'clock, to reduce that amount of light that's put out for the people that do live there? Is that a possibility? That's just one of the things I'm thinking about.
Probably not for security because of our cameras. We put cameras all over the facility so we can see every inch, and part of our I guess our benefit to the customers is that it's fully secured. It's fully recorded 24 hours a day, so that they feel safer with their valuables. And so that minimal lighting that we have really shows cars that are parked and people that are going in those doors. If somebody gets in the facility, then it'll show where they're coming in or that sort of thing if it's after hours, if it's a break-in. So I try to cut, I'm in charge of development and construction, so when the designers design it, I try to cut the lighting down just because it's an expense. So what our bare minimum that we typically have is we usually like to leave it on 24 hours, or excuse me, during nighttime hours, just for the cameras mainly, because there's nobody going in and out other than a manager if there's a problem or want to check on things.
And you said it's not going to be open 24 hours.
It's
It will
not.
close at,
It's only 24 access, and 24-hour access is for Rosemeyer employees. And they're not going up there unless there's an issue with something.
Yeah, I think the conditional use has 6:30 a.m. to 10 p.m.
Correct, for customers.
You actually have somebody staffed for those hours.
Correct.
768 is a lot of storage units.
Yes, and we'll probably phase it. We'll probably do the first phase and then the second phase.
You know, I like this project, I really do. I think it's great, and I hope you fill it up. But I really am worried about the traffic issue, and I know John just talked about it, and I don't know if this is time for me to talk to my fellow council members, but I agree with Dr. Budd about the traffic on Perry, and I think we've kicked this idea around before about, talking about, and I know Tommy has as well, Donald, I think we have before, Dan, about purchasing some property to cut through to Main Street and to alleviate traffic. And I think we really need to talk about that because Perry is very busy. And I don't know, what are your thoughts on that, if this is the time to even talk about it?
I can tell you the process for it,
Yeah.
and that is you would have to have a engineering study, and also you'd want some VDOT feedback to look at coordination of distance between light. There'd be a whole traffic study of the benefit, the pros and cons of that area of where that's located. What the benefits that would be, and then where then it becomes from the study you'll get project figures as well about what is it to cost to purchase the property and for the construction and those types of things.
I know we have
But that's a few
Harper's.
years away. I mean, you're talking. I mean, this wouldn't happen overnight.
yeah, we got to start somewhere.
Well, and I realize we have Harper's development as well back there.
That's
So
100 and
this
some.
this is another, this is a growing community through there. So we need to start somewhere, yeah.
So
I would
that
say,
delay-
I think-
would that
oh,
delay
sorry.
the project? Would that delay the project to do this study, how many years? Would it set it back?
Not this project.
I would say that we have the retreat in February, and that is a perfect
that,
discussion
yeah.
for the retreat when you're talking about a 35,000-foot view of how you want to develop certain areas and what the future holds for like the next 5 to 20 years. It sets up for a really good conversation in that retreat where we can expound upon
That's
that
perfect.
subject at a greater length.
That's perfect.
And really flesh it
Thank
out.
you.
Absolutely. I think everybody's in agreement that, if that area is going to continue to see development, then yes, there has to be some thought towards how that's going to be effectively done. And so I know Mr. Hardy and I have had a conversation a couple of days ago about that very topic, and there was a discussion of how best to have it, and I think the retreat is a good environment for that to happen.
And this is a question for Scott, in that situation, and I know the retreat is where we'll discuss it, but grants and stuff and VDOT money for helping with that, I would love to explore that. So we have some ideas when we talk in the retreat. Thank you.
Yeah, it's one of those that obviously it's definitely a retreat topic, longer than this evening with more information. getting information from you all, what you're expecting, and then coming back to you with what that would look like in a study. Yes, it would probably be one of those similar to if we were going to get state funds of that magnitude, it would be a smart scale project, I would imagine, which would be similar to the roundabout and the green tea. So smart scale projects, by the time you're awarded, is about 5 years out for that amount of money.
Yeah, you got to start somewhere. Exactly. Any other questions regarding Resolution 2025-0101?
I have one. I hesitate to bring this up, sir. When I'm looking at your project, and I think it's a good project for the town and a good fit, and locations is the location. That's the best we can do. We're also having an issue where we're losing some of our green space and our canopy, and that kind of creates a little bit of a heat island for us, which grows over time. Is there anything you can think of that might help mitigate less industrial looking, less reflective surfaces, a couple trees in the corner or something of that matter that just help keep things a little bit more?
One reason we like this site is because we, DEQ likes for us to leave some of the green space and some of the forest area. And if you know the lay of the land, that land has got that huge gully in the back and mature trees, and most all of that's going to be left. A lot of it is pasture, that's all on the front and behind, and kind of goes over behind the shuls, I think. And that's one thing we liked about it because it helps us as far as our credits and doing that development. So we're planning to leave most all of that large growth that's already there.
But no additional plantings?
Well, we do landscaping, especially at the front, and so we'll have that submitted, when we do our design.
I appreciate
We definitely don't want it bare.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other discussion at this time? If not, is there a motion on the resolution number 25-0101?
I'll make a motion that we approve the request of the resolution 2025-0101 for conditional use permit to allow a total of 768 storage units in 6 buildings, 1 acre of exterior storage, and office building on the west edge of Perry Drive.
Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion at this time? Ms. McKay, can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Parrott,
Yes.
Mr. Yolen,
Yes.
Mr. Hunter,
Yes.
Mr. Hardy,
No.
Mrs. Amos,
Yes.
Mr. Reed,
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer.
Yes.
On a vote of 6-1, the motion passes.
Thank you, Ms. McKay. Next item on the agenda for new business is related in a way. Request approval of final plat Marywood 2 subdivision and boundary line adjustment. Do we have any updates on this? Ms. Austin?
I can just give you an overview of what the plat accomplishes. The plat is shown on your screen, and it accomplishes 3 items. One is to split off a 5-acre undeveloped lot from tax map number 3713C. This lot will remain under the ownership of Marywood Acres LLC. There will be a boundary line adjustment between 37A52 and 3713C to adjust tax map parcel number 37A52 from 2 acres to 2.401 acres, and then consolidate parcel number 37A51 into 3713C, leaving 3713C with a total of 17.196 acres. I can answer any questions about the final plat.
Just quick, I mean, boundary line has to be approved by us because it's a subdivision plat?
So this is if it is just one of these three items, it can be done administratively. So if it was just a vacation of a property line, if it was just a boundary adjustment, or just separating one parcel. But this accomplishes three different items, so it does need to be heard by council and approved by council.
Thank you.
And you technically can't disapprove it and if it meets all the requirements of the subdivision ordinance.
Any questions? If no questions, do I hear a motion on the approval of the final plat?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any additional information or any additional discussion at this time? Not hearing any. Mr. McKay, can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Yolen,
Yes.
Mr. Hunter,
Yes.
Mr. Hardy,
Yes.
Mrs. Amos,
Yes.
Mr. Reed,
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer,
Yes.
Mr. Parrott.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Thank you. Now we move into old business, some ground that we have trod much over the last few months. Come up on ordinance number 234 regarding fences. This has traveled a windy road from Planning Commission up to us and back to Planning Commission and back to us. Any further updates or discussion at this time? I think we all know where kind of everyone is. Does anybody have any additional comments at this time?
I just think that if this goes forward and somebody has to come back in reference to the height of the front of the yard, they shouldn't have to be charged the other $500 for the conditional use permit.
So you're referencing the fee for the front CUP?
Correct.
I'll look at Mr. Elder because I don't know the legality of that when you charge for all other conditional use permits that fee. We did a one-time waiver for somebody that had already brought a conditional use permit prior. The council did that. I would have to ask him. I don't know that you can pull. I don't know the answer to that question. If you can pull one thing out of a conditional use permit, but you charge for all the other items that would come.
So in other words, if it just came back in front of us and we decided to do it then it's okay.
I don't know if I'm following you. It wouldn't come to you. If it meets the code, it'll never come to you. If the only time it'll come to you is if somebody wants to put a 12-foot fence on the side and rear yard or a 5 instead of the 4 in the front yard.
That's what I'm basing it off of. If somebody they want to put their fence up, but they want to increase the front part of the yard to 4 to 6 feet, that would have to come back in front of us, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
As a conditional use permit.
Yes.
And at that time, could we waive, you said the waivers, can we waive the fee at that point? I think that's what he was asking.
That's what I don't know the legality of that because you're charging for all the other conditional use purposes.
Mr. Elder, welcome to the microphone.
Thank you. So localities in Virginia, some localities in Virginia allow an applicant to request a waiver of a fee. I don't think we have that in any town code provision in Farm Bill. It is permitted, but I'm unaware of any case where it's split into you have to pay a fee for a request for a conditional use permit for this, but not for that. But there are localities that I'm aware of that do say an applicant can request a waiver. That's up to you guys.
But we could look at that in the future. We could.
Correct. You would have to pass that legislation in a different ordinance.
Correct. That's my understanding of how other localities have dealt with the issue. But I'm with Scott on that one. I'm unaware of any situation where you can split it into pieces and say fee for this one, no fee for this one.
Sounds like our retreat agenda
Yeah.
is adding items
Yes,
as
sir.
we speak.
I agree.
You think we need 2 days instead of just one?
I'm going to kick this can one last time. If you read Jack Houghton's letter, Jack lives at 105 William Street. He says something profound to me. It says, citizens of this jurisdiction are more in need of relief than of more burdensome regulations and expenses. That is profound to me. So I say we scrap this whole ordinance and leave Section C that says fences shall not impair vehicular or pedestrian travel visibility. In the case of corner lots in all districts, no fence shall be erected that blocks or otherwise impedes the view of streets or traffic. That's it. That is all we need. That is all we need. We do not need height restrictions. We do not need conditional use permits for people to be burdened with extra expenses. That's it. So that's my piece. We had Dr. Budd come up here and speak. I've had people stop me in the grocery store and say how ridiculous this ordinance is. So that is my piece.
Yeah. Well, we have a couple of options here. You can make that a motion and then force everybody to vote on it, or somebody can make a motion to adopt this and then we vote on that and see what happens. But one of those two has to be the course of action.
Well, I'm going to make a motion that we adopt a fence ordinance that simply says, fences shall not impair vehicular or pedestrian travel visibility. In the case of corner lots in all districts, no fence shall be erected that blocks or otherwise impedes the view of streets or traffic.
Second.
Okay. So that's a motion and second. Any additional discussion at this time? All right, no additional discussion. Ms. McKay, can you do a roll call, please?
Mr. Hunter,
No.
Mr. Hardy,
Yes.
Mrs. Amos,
Yes.
Mr. Reed,
No.
Mr. Dwyer,
No.
Mr. Parrott,
Come on, Tommy. Come on, Tommy. Come on, Tommy. Do the right thing.
Yes.
Mr.
Yes.
Mr. Yolen.
Oh, sorry, yes.
On a vote of 4 to 3, the motion passes.
All right, motion passes 4-3. Next up is the town manager's report.
The month was rather short with holidays and some time off. What I do want to say is thanks to our Public Works Department over the past weekend and Monday for all their efforts. They continue to make our roads navigable during snowstorms and ice storms. And so we'll see what Friday and Saturday brings, if they'll be out working 12-hour shifts again. The other thing I wanted to draw your attention to is next week you have another meeting. It's a joint meeting with the Board of Supervisors and our EOC at 5:30. So we will have that meeting with them. Other than that, I don't have anything else, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Going around is the pledge that we all have to sign for Ms. McKay. I'll go around the room. Mr. Hardy.
Yes, Dr. Davis, the Public Works team is phenomenal. I've gotten several compliments about how quickly they've cleaned up trees and how nice the roads are cleaned from the snow. Also wanted to congratulate one of our local residents right outside the town, Mr. Luther Cyphers, on his win in the Virginia State Senate election yesterday.
Mr. Hunter.
Yes, for the chief, Chief Ellington. I happened to be on Andrews Drive a lot last week and the week before, and it's going back to being NASCAR. So we can get somebody to do a little more checking. It's in the middle of the day, that's the sad part, so I just imagine what it is at night. But, and the other part is, that's why we're here. We agree to disagree. We do what's best for the town. Thanks.
Mr. Yellen.
Great shout out to Public Works, not only for the snow, but the leaf collection efforts. The new truck seems to be working really well. Respectfully, Donald, you're 100% right. We come here to make the decisions the best we can. No animosity whatsoever. I'm just glad to be a part of it. Thank you.
Mr. Parrott.
I'm good.
Mr. Dwyer.
I think the cordial sentiment is shared by us all. I would say that here we are after the snow and a pipe busted in the street right up my yard today, and there was the town patching it up and promptly and getting it fixed. So again, kudos again. One more day of angst after that storm, but thank you.
Mr. Reed.
I'm good.
Ms. Amos.
Yes, thank you for the town crew, and understand Dr. Davis was out riding with them for a while, and I think that's just speaks to his leadership, so thank you very much, and also congratulations to our hometown Luther Cyphers on winning Senate, so.
All right, I'll close this out. And once again, echo all the sentiments expressed here. It was, walking the streets in my neighborhood and seeing town trucks and everybody rolling around at a constant busy pace. It's nice. It's just nice and appreciated how much our Public Works Department goes to work. But not only them, but our public safety officers who are out there as well, keeping us safe and watching over us throughout these moments. We appreciate all of them and the work they do. We have mentioned several times this evening that there is a retreat that is in February, I believe the 15th. I hope I'm right. It's either the 14th or the 15th. It is a public meeting, so the public is welcome to attend. It's not like public comment or anything of that sort, but we will be discussing business. We'll have a facilitator. We'll be long-term game planning.
Mayor, it's actually Friday, February the 7th.
7th. What am I thinking of? I'm thinking of January 15th, aren't I? Yeah. Sorry about that, February 7th. January 15th is the joint meeting with the Board of Supervisors, and that is also a public meeting of the two bodies. Am I wrong on that date too? I'm all over the place. Man, I'm just going to give out bad information. But those are public meetings, so the public is welcome to attend if you can figure out when they are. I will say, once again, the sentiment, I texted Luther last night. I was looking back through some photos, and I found a picture of us from 2013 standing around a fire with a bunch of fishermen and looking a lot less gray than we are now. And it was like, I don't think anybody standing around that fire pit would have guessed where those two guys on the end ended up 11 years later. But congrats to Mr. Cyphers on a victory that puts, once again, for the first time in quite some time, an elected official from our neck of the woods in Richmond. And that's a good thing. So with that, we roll into what will be more than likely a continuation of a cultural phenomenon that tends to try and pit us against each other at most times. And as you see up here, it doesn't have to be that way. We can have discussions, we can have disagreements, and people can be decent and civil to each other. And I hope that Farmville continues to shine as that beacon for the world, because it certainly gives me hope, and I thank all of you for being here and participating in the process. With that said, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion and second, all in favor? Those opposed, ayes have it. Thank you. 7 o'clock.